Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. It is Friday, September 6, 2022. Today in the headlines, as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sends illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, the left goes apoplectic. Senator Rand Paul threatens Fauci, says he will have to divulge pharmaceutical kickbacks. The special master has been named in the Mar-a-Lago document seizure, a win for former President Trump. Violent crime is rising in the U.S. and around the world. I'll be talking about these headlines and more coming up right now. So the first headline up here is from the Washington Post. DeSantis move to fly migrants to Massachusetts stokes confusion, outrage from critics. This is from the Washington Post. And the lead goes on to say, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Thursday defended flying migrants from Texas to Massachusetts resort island unprepared to receive them. A move that was sharply condemned by human rights advocates and Democrats and marked an escalation in the GOP efforts to make a political point by sending undocumented immigrants to liberal enclaves. Well, this is all true. The fact of the matter being is that why should border towns and inner cities bear the brunt of millions of undocumented immigrants flooding into the area, which puts a strain on social services, and obviously it's going to put the states in a position where they're going to have to request more federal funding. It's a vicious circle. But the fact is that the liberals are just so maniacal about what they're doing, they have to rush to defend their policies, which have unintended consequences like, undocumented people showing up at the gates of Nancy Pelosi or Obama's estates. Well, at least their landscaping will be cheaper. So this is from Real Clear Politics, Senator Rand Paul versus Fauci. When we're in charge, you will have to divulge where you get your royalties from. So Senator Rand Paul at a Senate hearing on Wednesday told NIAID Director Dr. Anthony Fauci that Republicans will change the rules on royalties, investigate where he receives his royalties from, and if there are conflicts of interest. There obviously are, and that's why he's not divulging them. So Senator Paul goes on to say, we have demanded them through Freedom of Information Act, and it's a shame that senators have to file Freedom of Information Acts. And what you have said, we're not going to tell you, but I'll tell you this, when we're in charge, we're going to change the rules and you'll have to divulge where you get your royalties from what companies, and if anyone in the committee has a conflict of interest, we're going to learn about it, I promise you that. Well, transparency in government, how about that? So the special master has been named in the Trump document case, the FBI seizure of documents from Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago. And one of the Trump suggestions for the special master, Raymond Dearie, is special master's name to oversee Donald Trump Florida files. This is from BBC News, and their lead states, U.S. federal judge Raymond Dearie has been chosen to review the files seized in the FBI search of former U.S. President Donald Trump's Florida home. Mr. Dearie, 78, will be a special master and decide whether any documents are off limits in any legal proceedings. Well, some of them will be. But the main point of this is during this part of the investigation that the FBI will have to stop their investigation into the documents. He had been proposed by Mr. Trump's team, and the U.S. Department of Justice previously said it did not object. So that is a win for Trump. So and now I want to get into the rising violence here. This is from CBS News. A Tuesday town hall meeting will address a rise in criminal activity on the south side of Greensboro. And this is Greensboro, South Carolina. City Council member Sharon Hightower hosts a public town hall meeting to come up with ways to improve safety in neighborhoods along Randleman Road. This is a local story, but I just wanted to say here that the concern about how safe the corridor is alarming people who have lived in the area for years and have not seen the level of violent activity they're starting to see. At the end of July, 2 bank robberies took place, both within weeks of each other. In the same month, there was a robbery at gunpoint at a Fairway gas station where a suspect who fired multiple rounds has yet to be caught. So that's just one. Greensboro is a fairly small city. So, and this is from Fox 26 from Houston, man critically injured in the Northeast Houston shooting, neighbors worried about the rise in crime. So neighbors on the block tell Fox 26 they're terrified after dealing with several shootings in the last year and a half. It scares me. I can't be comfortable in my own house. I never know when a bullet is going to come through and shoot up my house again. It's just rising crime all across the nation. And in unrelated news, I'm going to zip through these pretty quickly from the Washington Free Beacon. China expands its secret police stations around the world. China uses 54 overseas police stations, including in New York City, to hunt down citizens, if you didn't know. And this is from the Daily Beast. Lancet report claiming COVID could have come from a U.S. lab met with uproar. Well, of course it did. A lot of this stuff that we're pretty sure... if you were following the gain of function story, basically the scientists that were conducting the research said it's becoming too dangerous with the advent of CRISPR. And so there were several moratoriums to stop the research, gain of function research here in this country. It was then moved abroad, but a lot of the chimeric experiments were done here in the US. So things like CoV-2 could have very well originated, the original experiments could have been, and most likely have, there's documentation that they could have been conducted here in the United States before being moved overseas. This is for the New York Times. Giorgia Maloney may lead Italy, and Europe is worried. The hard right leader has excoriated the European Union in the past, and she regularly blasts illegal immigration and George Soros, but she is closer than ever to becoming prime minister. And they were lauding her just not too long ago, the New York Times was, as being the first woman prime minister of Italy. But then when she realized, and there is a movement, a political movement to the right in Europe, mostly because of the unending waves of immigration and the Middle Easterners who are going to Europe, immigrating to Europe, are not really assimilating very well. And then they create ghettos and no-go zones, and they commit criminal activity. You saw it in Sweden. You've seen it in other places. It's well documented. So there is, in the electorate, there is an appetite for somebody who's going to be a little stricter on immigration. From Bloomberg, same-sex marriage bill in Senate gets delayed until after midterm elections. So the Democrats want to pass this federal law, same-sex marriage bill in the state Senate. Senate backers of a bill to ensure federal recognition of same-sex marriages abruptly delayed a vote on legislation. I don't know. This needs further codification. I thought this was already passed, the same-sex marriage bill. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the Democrats are being smarter about this than, say, Lindsey Graham, to put this off till after the midterm elections, because they're just going to raise a point of contention with Republicans that could set them back. Unlike Lindsey Graham, who wants to put in a abortion limit bill federally, that's going to hurt Republicans in the midterm elections. And then here, some more Bloomberg news. Argentina to hike interest rates to 75% as inflation nears 100%. Now, I covered this story yesterday where inflation in Argentina was 75%. Now it's near 100%. So basically, all the value of the Argentinian peso, I believe, is going to be, it's completely undermined. It has no value now. From Barron's, prices soaring everywhere from beans in Brazil to pork in China. Consumers and businesses around the world are facing steeper prices from everything from Mexico's beloved tortillas to the aluminum cans used by beer companies. Inflation jumped after countries emerged from the COVID lockdowns and it has soared since Russia invaded Ukraine, with the IMF expecting consumer prices to rise by 8.3% globally this year. And it's all in the heels of what's happening in the United States, because as the dollar goes, the rest of the world goes, because the dollar is the reserve currency. From the Associated Press, wave of Lebanon bank heist to seize back frozen savings. If you didn't know, Lebanon has been mired in an economic crisis for more than 2 years since the value of its currency began plummeting and banks started imposing draconian restrictions on withdrawals. Not surprising. Like I said, it's part of the Great Reset. You plunge the world into depression or recession, basically crash everything and then rebuild it, build back better. But before you build back better, you have to crash everything. It's the mythology of the phoenix. Out of the ashes grows change. But nobody really nobody really is concerned with, what causes the ashes to begin with. You have to destroy. And that's the cyclical nature of these occultists. They like to destroy things and then build them back. But they don't care who suffers during the destruction. And they make sure they isolate themselves from any damage. So they usually get through unscathed. I mean, who fares better during an economic recession or depression? Those with lots of money. And those who maybe the ones who cause economic upheaval see it coming, and so they put their money in appropriate places to avoid any destruction of their wealth. And we're just going to wrap it up with the wrap. Don Lemon loses CNN primetime gig to co-anchor new morning show with Poppy Harlow and Caitlin Collins. Great, 3 women. CNN boss Chris Licht had said he would be reimagining mornings. I'm glad to see, this is kind of a demotion for Don Lemon, which he deserves. He's never a hard news anchor. He's blatantly partisan, and that's what Licht is trying to do. He's trying to make it seem like CNN isn't the intelligence agency network of propaganda. So, all right. So that's it for me today. Everybody have a great weekend. Rudy's Revelation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and comment down below. Let me know what you think. Even if it's contrary to some of the things I've been stating here, feel free. We can get into a little discussion about it. And that's where we all get a little more politically enlightened. So follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Getter Minds, Truth Social. And I'll have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday.
You can't handle the truth.